Well, there are two problems here. One is that, as most people have now realised, the poor in this country are more likely to be working for a living than actually on benefits, because the people on benefits are doing better than some of the low-paid workers in this country. Meanwhile, you've got, hundreds of thousands of migrants coming in who at some point or other will take a job away from somebody who needs one. And it's never going to be any better unless they either make the benefits less attractive or the reasons for coming here from overseas illegally less attractive.
That's true, but they didn't even try, Mike. I mean, the model they've had for 15, 20 years is open labour markets. So if the health service or another organisation wants some labour, they'll just ship it in ready. And there's no attempt to train British people, to focus on British people. We've got over 5.5 million people on out-of-work benefits, and that is only going to grow, and the bill for that is increasing. So it's a major, major problem. And yet the health service still doesn't focus on training our own nurses and doctors and medical staff. It's quite content to import people and not worry about it. So it's partly the model itself that is the problem, Mike. And the gap between, as you say, between households on benefits entirely and the people on low wages. I mean, actually, I am in favour of minimum wage going up, and if it goes up to £11, I think that's fine. And actually, it may help incentivize, may assist the gap between people on out-of-work benefits and people that are working. The working poor are right on the front line in this.
And what about this narrative from Suella Braverman about multiculturalism? I mean, you live in a different part of the country to me. You probably see other parts of the north of England more often than I do. What I've been told and what I see just on a weekly basis in terms of the news stories is that there are now parts of northern cities of this country and northern towns which are segregated by one means or another, not necessarily between what you would call, like immigrants versus people who have been here for a long time, but between different immigrant groups.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a tendency for people to self-segregate and to congregate within communities that, reflect their values and so on. So, yeah, I mean, if you go onto the ONS website and have a look at the census data, you can do it by street, actually. And for all the talk of unity, actually, we're becoming quite a divided society. And we have been for many years in particularly some of the northern and northwestern towns like Blackburn and so on, and some in West Yorkshire as well, quite segregated. So, and this actually is very granular. You can actually zoom in and see how segregated it is almost by street to street. So, I mean, I would ask, is that what we want? Is that a unified society that's going to build the solidarity to sort of work together and to build a new us? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't think so. And what about all of this talk around the European Convention on Human Rights and whether or not we should ditch it or whether we should ignore it or whether we should ask them to change it? I mean, is that all just smoke and mirrors then, do you think?
It's interlinked, Mike. I think, we've got to be governed by people that have the will to have a national border that sticks. And for as long as the post-war protocols and conventions remain in place, and for as long as we're members of the ECHR, it will be fettered. If we decide we want a secure border, we'll be fettered by the lawyers. So it's a matter of self-governance. What annoys me is that a lot of our political class and cultural class don't realise that it's actually our call. It's our democratic call. It depends whether we incorporate some of this international legislation into our own law, and it's our call if we don't. But we're so used to being governed by external multinational agencies like the EU or the WTO or the others that we're not used to self-governance. But actually what the British people want is it's their call democratically to decide who arrives in this country and under what circumstances, which I think is a very reasonable call.
Do you think, actually, William, and that's an interesting thought you've just proffered there, that we became kind of dependent upon the European Union for so long because we could always say as a government, well, we can't do that because the EU won't let us. And we were one of the few countries that ever said those words because the French never paid any attention to EU rules, neither did the Spanish, neither did the Italians or the Germans, But we could always hang back and go, no, we can't do that. I know you want it, but, it's not possible. EU rules don't allow us. And I wonder now whether we've just forgotten how to govern.
Oh, that's true. There's a lot in that. Stephen Barrett, the lawyer, gave some evidence to a Commons committee recently and had to remind them that it's their call. You know, I mean, Parliament decides how we're governed in this country, and it's their call. But they've been so marinated in this attitude of being governed by, and it's partly, Mike, it's partly a lack of responsibility. It's a very good way of avoiding responsibility, isn't it? To say, oh, these things are decided, or these things are decided by lawyers. It's not my responsibility. Well, no, it really is your responsibility. And the British people want a collection of politicians that have the guts to represent them and to represent this country's interests. That's what we're looking for.
Exactly right.